Hello and welcome into our Week 6 recap of our best bets. If you notice a little energy maybe lacking on one side of the pod this week, my man Kody Barwick had a bit of a rough weekend, both in fantasy and on the best bets. Kody, I'll let you take it away here because this I think this will be a little therapeutic for you. This recap session we can just wash this week away and go on to Week 7.
We're gonna start on a positive note. For those on the YouTube, you can see I'm a volleyball champion. So that was made official tonight. If anyone needs a sub volleyball player in the Kansas City area, there's a champ on this podcast that's happy to do so. But yeah, no, I mean, yes, I lost all 5 of my best bets. I also not only lost to you in fantasy, but I lost in every fantasy football league this week besides my guillotine league. So. Yeah, there's a reason why I didn't want to do this last night when you texted me about it. It was a rough week for your boy, so luckily brought home the championship in volleyball tonight to at least bring some kind of positive energy. But we'll get into a little bit. There were 2 games I feel like I called pretty correctly, and then the other 3 were just complete misses. So we'll get into it, though. Nick obviously beating me this week for the first time in maybe fantasy football history. So
I think so.
Shout out to you. Went 3-2 in best bets. So at least kept the podcast afloat if you tailed us. So appreciate that. But we'll get better for week 7. And like I said, we'll break down these bets. I honestly am looking back on them compared to my previous ones, and there's one pretty serious trend that I see that I made a mistake on in week 6 that we will get into.
Yeah, I think a lot of people probably feel the same way. Week 6 was really disgusting football all around. I think the unders, there was only 2 overs that hit on the entire slate. Yeah. I have a pretty, there was the stat I had this ready for last night's show before the Monday night game, and that went under as well. So over 60% of games this year have hit the under. Incredible. That is the highest percentage of games through week 6 in the 2000s. So that's the kind of ridiculousness that we're talking about right now as far as offensive incompetence is concerned. Lots of injuries, I did end up defeating you in fantasy, which was great, but 2 of my main players, Justin Fields and David Montgomery, went down with injuries, so I don't even feel that good about my team right now. Anyway, rough week for a lot of people, Kody. I'm sure it's not just you.
This is a week I'm happy we don't have to do fantasy football stuff. We made this transition before this week because one, the news and notes would be an hour and a half long, and then having to be like, do you want to pick up Myles Gaskin or Darrell Henderson for the Rams or Royce Freeman? Jesus. Which one of those 3 do you want to go in on? It's rough in fantasy right now.
It really is, especially on the running back front. Kody, go ahead and kick us off. You had the Thursday night game. I'll let you start us off with your first best bet of week 6.
For sure. So this is one of my 2, I'm going to consider bad beats. I really called this game correctly. We talked about it or texted about it that night. I mean, the Chiefs offense really didn't blow out the Broncos whatsoever. The Broncos got the late touchdown to cover. The Chiefs just unfortunately got down to field goal range. Butker did not want to miss for me, and then it ended up being right at 11. So a little bit of a bad beat there, but I felt like I was on the right side of that. I felt pretty good about it. I mean, Mahomes didn't do anything to make me feel like I was worried about this bet. It was just the Broncos kind of incompetence on offense. So I'll probably keep them out of my best bets for at least the next couple of weeks until we see something from them, but I'm not going to be upset about this loss. This is one I pretty much called this game to a T. It's just the Chiefs made the field goal with a couple minutes left to cover. So good for them.
Yeah, hopefully if a few of you tailed Kody towards the start of that game, you got the 11. It actually it flipped over to plus 11 right before game time. You would have at least pushed there. Definitely a bit of a bad beat. The Denver Broncos offense was just completely incompetent in this one. My first best bet of the week was a dub. We went with the Lunder. It came through once again. I had to sweat this thing out real heavy till the end. Tennessee had a chance to score a touchdown and what was basically garbage time at the end that would have pushed it over. But we end up getting the cover 24-16 on the under 42 at Baltimore, Tennessee. I think I got lucky in some ways. Baltimore only 1 of 6 in the red zone. really one of 5 because one of those 6 was a possession that they took over with 1 second left in the half and kicked a field goal. But still, inefficiency in the red zone kind of killed the over spot here. Tannehill injury helped, but a few unlucky things as well. Long punt return, couple turnovers deep in their own territory for both sides that kind of helped push the point total up as well. So I think at the end of the day, this was kind of what we expected. Baltimore was the better side. Tennessee kept it close. Vrabel's a good coach, but at the end of the day, the Ravens covered and won a relatively low-scoring game. So I'm pretty confident with this one. I think we kind of got what we expected.
Yeah, I think the real test is going to be when we see the Chiefs and the Dolphins in Germany. Let's see if the Dolphins offense can keep it going when they go overseas. Because
good defense too.
Yeah, the London under or the Lunder or the overseas under as we go into Germany in a couple weeks are pretty nice bets. Obviously, the jet lag has some pretty big effect on these players. And yeah, the Ravens' inefficiency in the red zone is pretty concerning just overall from a team perspective because they got to get better there if they are going to make a run in the AFC. My second, we need a drop for bad beat of the week because if we had one, this is it right here. Patriots +3 at the Raiders. Mac Jones takes a safety. I don't even know how much time was on the clock. All I remember was just I was seeing red after I saw the safety happen, so didn't see the time. But I know it was very late in the fourth quarter, and all he had to do was throw that football away, and the cover was there. So it's another one. If you go back and listen to our Week 6 preview, I called this game pretty close. I said I feel like it's going to be an 18-17 game. It was 19-17 right there towards the end, so I was feeling really good about it. Obviously, the safety at the end hurts, but is what it is. Bad beat. Overall, I think, again, I had the right side there, but as we get into some of the worst losses, we'll get into some of my trends that I was talking about earlier. I don't want to spoil those quite yet, but I feel like I was on the right side. If Mac Jones throws that ball away, we got the cover. So it just is what it is. Bad beat. Move on from that one.
Yeah, this is the karma gods getting you back from earlier in the year when Sean McVay
the stupid Rams cover.
Graced you with the 7.5 cover on the last second field goal. So the football gods give it and the football gods take it away. Unfortunately, a safety to go from 2 to 4 and a +3 is about as bad as it gets, especially with like a minute left or whatever there was. But yeah, definitely the right side on the Pats there. Just, Mac Jones, he's going to get you. New Orleans at Houston, under 42.5. Another cash for me here. Spoiler alert, my unders went 3-0 this week. My other 2 bets did not hit, so really maybe I should just be targeting unders until the scoring comes up a little bit.
What a podcast idea. We just go through every single game, we just talk about why the under should hit.
Listen, right now we'd be rolling in it if we had followed that method, but 17-10 at half at this one. I was thinking my luck on the Saints unders had run out, but only 6 points in the second half. A couple missed field goals definitely helped me out. But again, I think both these defenses are just really solid, especially on the New Orleans side. I think C.J. Stroud is so impressive. He really threw some incredible balls into tight coverage, especially in the first half. They kind of just coasted with the lead in the second half, didn't ask him to do too much. So thank you for New Orleans, not Derek Carr's red zone woes, similar to Lamar Jackson and the Ravens. It's become a very big issue for them. So that helped me cash this one. But at the end of the day, 20-13, we were cashing this one pretty comfortably towards the end of the game, just hoping, not to get overtime in that situation.
Yep, absolutely. And I'll just tag on because my third best bet was Saints -1.5. Unfortunately, just on the wrong side of that. Yeah, a little bit of a bad beat there as well.
Saints outgained them by 180 yards, a couple missed field goals. I think, if Groupie makes both those field goals, then they are kicking the field goal at the end instead of having to get the touchdown. And I still cover the under in that situation, so we would have both been happy. But yeah, just wasn't their day.
Yeah, it is rough. Yeah, it is a bad beat. My big Week 6 flaw here kind of starts. Yes, I agree it was a bad beat. If he makes those 2 field goals, it's a different game. But also, when I'm looking at all of my losses this week, every single side I took was either the worst coach or the worst quarterback in the situation. Pats Raiders was a little bit different because Hoyer got thrown in there, but I would rather have Jimmy G over Mac Jones at this point. But if you just look down the line, I mean, it was like in this game here, I think C.J. Stroud is better than Derek Carr, and I also think that D'Amico Ryans is better than Dennis Allen. So just on the wrong side there. Like you said, if he makes the 2 field goals, it's a different game, but overall, just the Saints' inefficiency in the red zone really killed them. They just really don't have that great of offensive play calling, so that's one of my big takeaways going into Week 7. Just got to get on the right side. Either better quarterback or better coach is going to win you a lot of bets.
Something to consider moving forward for sure. My first loss on the week, Seattle at Cincy over 45. This one wasn't very close at the end, 17-13 game. Very similar feel to the Saints-Texans game. This was a 14-7 game with 12 minutes left in the second quarter. I was feeling great about this over since he was moving the ball up and down the field. The Seahawks had a very nice drive to open the game, scored a touchdown, but the offensive tap just completely turned off on both sides here. The Bengals kind of held on for dear life at the end. Geno had a couple of sacks deep into Bengals territory in the red zone when they needed a touchdown late. So a bit of if I would have had Seattle +3, I would have been fuming because they were the better team. They almost outgained Cincy 2-1 in this one. Again, just could not finish in the red zone. Sort of a theme here throughout this week for a lot of these teams. But taking the over was, at the end of the day, just the wrong bet. 15 points away. You swallow these sometimes, and I don't have any regrets here, but just sometimes you don't win them.
Yep, exactly. I had the Joe Burrow, Jamar Chase stack in a daily fantasy game, and through
good early on
quarter and a half, I was like, "Let's go! This is going to be Joe Burrow is back. Let's run it." He was pretty cheap in fantasy just based on his recent performances, so I thought that I had myself a steal, and then. Yeah, by the time we got to the fourth quarter and I was in the bottom fifth of the entire tournament, I was like, that is a rough look. So unfortunate there. My fourth one to continue the trend of taking worse quarterbacks or coaches. We had the Buccaneers +3 against the Lions. Just the completely wrong side. The Lions are a lot better than I was willing to give them credit for going into this week. I do think it's a fadeable team just because the public is going to be on the Lions quite a bit. We just got to get a better side. I thought the Buccaneers off the bye was going to be a good spot for them to kind of let down, but they're on a roll right now. When they play a pretty good or equally good team and they're either favored or it's a pick 'em, I'll probably go the other side, but when they're playing these middling to bottom half teams, they are just in a different tier right now.
Yeah, they have been really taking care of business against, like you said, these middle to bottom end teams the past few weeks. I was on the Lions side. I know that you were following a lot of sharps. It was kind of the typical NFL better play to make here, kind of fading the public and taking the points at home off a team coming off a bye. But the Lions really kind of just ate their lunch here. Baker really struggled in this game, only 6 points. I think you got what you wanted out of the Tampa Bay defense. If you were a Buccaneers better, the Bucs offense just did not get anything done here.
Yep.
My fourth bet, my second loss, Minnesota at Chicago +3. This one feels pretty bad. Really ugly game. Obviously disappointed. Fields got hurt right after the third quarter started in this one, so basically halfway through. I'm not sure if it would have made a difference, but it couldn't have hurt. The backup ended up coming in and throwing or fumbling a pick six, one of the two. He threw another really ugly pick after that as well. So, I think we would have had a chance if Fields stayed in the game, but he didn't look great while he was in there either. So it's hard for me to be pounding the table that I got screwed over here. So I think this is just one you have to swallow as well.
Yeah, I get where you're coming from there. Honestly, I think if Fields stays in that game, they probably win it. Or, if anything, it's going to be 27-24, something like that. Like, it would have been... The Vikings basically had to do nothing in that second half on the offensive end. Kirk had a rough game. Pretty much all of their weapons had pretty rough games. I think Addison had the touchdown, so... It was just a bad beat. I mean, if Justin... Like I said, worst case, if Justin Fields stays in... There's more scoring in that game. The Vikings have more pressure on them. I think I would consider that one a bad beat personally because I was feeling pretty good about it until his injury.
Yeah.
My last one here, this was just a terrible bet. I did not feel good about it basically from when I woke up on Sunday, but Colts +4 at the Jaguars. Gardner Minshew looked pretty freaking bad. I don't really have much else to add than that. He looked pretty bad, and he he basically cost me this bet. He did almost nothing on offense there. The Colts are probably in for a little bit of a struggle bus season, as I believe Anthony Richardson potentially done for the year was the news that came out these past couple of days. So yeah, Colts similar to the Broncos, probably just going to be avoiding them right now unless we get an insane number or maybe an over/under that looks nice.
Yeah, I didn't have a great feel about this game one way or another, so I actually didn't watch a ton of it. Didn't have a ton of fantasy action going on it either. But I kind of just saw the Jags sort of leading by a couple scores the whole time. But then I looked at the stats afterwards. I was surprised to see the Jaguars scored 37 points, only had 233 total yards. Didn't do a ton on offense, so I guess these turnovers, it was 4-1 in favor of the Jaguars, really just made the difference here. I think you probably watched more of this game than I did, so I'd imagine that is what happened here. And yeah, I guess when you are betting these middle to backup level quarterbacks, you're just going to have these games sometimes.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, just if we look at it, it was my 5 games that I took this week were Russ against Patrick Mahomes, lost that one. Mac Jones against Jimmy G to start, lost that one. Derek Carr and Dennis Allen against D'Amico Ryans and CJ Stroud, bad bet. Jared Goff and Baker Mayfield, and then Gardner Minshew against Trevor. That's bad betting on my end there, and that's not going to happen anymore. I guess I took a lot. I took 4 underdogs. Maybe that was just my plan, was just to take the points this week. But you can't bet bad quarterbacks and have a winning season. So it was a rough 5 games for me. But we're going to be back for week 7. That's a pretty big wake up call.
My last bet of the day was my lock, and it cashed. We talked about this game earlier, New England at Las Vegas. This one never really felt in too much danger. I think the only danger it was in is that 19-17 spot. If Mac Jones gets sacked and fumbles and allows the Raiders to score a touchdown there, then both me and Kody would be really sad because that would have hit the over. But both offenses just have a ton of trouble generating big plays, struggle executing in key situations. I think they would have needed a defensive touchdown to get this one over, and luckily that did not happen. So 21-17 looks pretty close at the end of the day, but honestly, I was not really sweating it. They scored, I believe there was 17 points in the fourth quarter too, so even with kind of a surge in scoring towards the end, they were still another 4 points away from this one. So 41.5 under. Lock it in. We are 1-0 on our locks so far this year.
Do you know one benefit of going 0-5 is I don't have to feel bad about making the wrong lock. If any of them were the lock of the week, I was starting out with a loss. So it's no remorse here on taking the Colts plus 4.
The slate clean. Hopefully that was a little therapeutic for our man Kody and anybody following the Pods bets this week, 3-7 overall. We will be better. We have been better. Even with that, Kody 12-8 on the season. That is well within the realm of cashing. I'm 13-7 after that week, 1-0 on my locks, and coming off that 3-2 week. So Kody, let's go ahead and look ahead to week 7. I'll jump in here first because I really like this Thursday night game, and if you are listening to this, go check to see what the line is at. It's been fluctuating based on Trevor Lawrence's injury status. It's at -1 for the Saints right now. I absolutely love that number. Even if Trevor Lawrence plays in this game, he's going to be hobbled coming off a short week. I think this is just a really tough spot on the road. The Jags have won 3 straight. We always talk about how you want to fade teams. I mean, when a team does not cover versus a team that does cover, the team that didn't cover the week before is much more likely to reverse that trend. So that's exactly what we have here. A pissed off Saints team that really did outplay the Texans as far as just yardage and overall metrics go, but did not come out with the win, whether it was due to the red zone deficiencies or the rookie kicker. I could see them really coming out here and putting up a strong effort against a beat-up Jags team on a short week. I see, -1. I am just fine laying that number. I'd probably play this all the way up to 2.5. It's going to be in my best bets for sure if the number is still 3 or under when we do our Thursday night preview tomorrow. I would also play the 39.5 on the under too. We have to ride it until it breaks, man. 12 straight New Orleans unders. I have cashed the last 2 weeks taking the under on New Orleans Saints games. So I am going to just play the line here as of now, but if you want to play the under too, I don't blame you. Especially if Lawrence gets rolled out, this thing will go down to like 37, and the Saints line will go up to like 4 or 5.
Yeah, absolutely. If anybody who listens to this likes to play DraftKings DFS, the New Orleans defense as your captain
Not a
has
bad
a
idea.
deadly possibility this week because it's pretty cheap and they may get a backup quarterback. So I don't mind this one. I'm only going to stay away because if Trevor Lawrence does play, it's going exactly as to what I did last week, taking a worse
Yeah,
quarterback.
fair enough.
So I
And
would
the worst
probably
coach.
avoid it, but I respect your confidence because I also agree. I don't think if Trevor Lawrence plays, it's going to be a hobbled version. So get it at a point right now because if any kind of positive news comes out about Trevor Lawrence, it's going the opposite direction to either a pick 'em or potentially the Jags being favored by a point or so. So I would grab the -1 right now if you can.
Yeah, I would too. This just feels like a really tough spot for this Jags team coming off of the two straight London games. They came back home and obviously had a good effort against the Colts, but may have been a little lucky with all those turnovers, and
Like
now
you
they're
said,
beat up on a short week. So yeah,
yeah,
I like the Saints a lot here.
their offense didn't look that great. They kept getting the ball on the opposite side of the field because Gardner Minshew was a turnover machine. So I don't
Yeah,
mind
exactly.
taking the Saints. Absolutely.
You want to grab one that you like here and talk about it?
Go ahead and go with your number two. I'll grab another one here. I was looking through the ones you have listed.
Browns at Colts under 39. This line is just completely mispriced, in my opinion. I think this should be closer to 37. It is always really hard to bet unders when they are under 40. It just feels gross, but I mean, this just screams a game that taps out at around 20 to 17. This is an early contender for a best bet as well. I've already put a little bit of juice on it myself, so lock it in right now because I think once Deshaun Watson is officially ruled out, I do not expect him to play this week based on the vibes right now. This line will come down a little bit. Even if he's in, though, I'm still not scared of it. He hasn't played in 4 weeks. He'll be rusty, and this is a bit of an underrated Colts defense. They've been kind of hot and cold throughout the year, but I'd call them a middle pack unit at home, coming off an embarrassing loss. I'd expect them to get up a little bit for this one. And the Browns defense on the other side, I mean, what more can be said about them? They have allowed the least amount of yards through 5 games of any team in the past 40 years, 1,005 yards through 5 games. I don't see Gardner Minshew doing a damn thing against this Cleveland Browns defense. I think the only way this thing's cashing the over is if there is one or maybe even two defensive touchdowns along the way here. And yeah, if it's PJ Walker, it's a lock at 39. I mean, there's just no way.
Without a
Unless
doubt.
again, if there's not two defensive touchdowns, if it's PJ Walker versus Gardner Minshew, that you could just cash this ticket before the game even starts.
Absolutely. I would say PJ Walker is getting a little bit too much credit this week for beating the 49ers. He missed so many wide open throws in that game that, I mean, the over should have hit because Cleveland should have scored more, but he just was not capable. I do want to just throw a stat out here for you because I know you mentioned that they are basically one of the best defenses we've seen recently. They are at 200.4 yards per game this year. In second place is the Baltimore Ravens. What is your guess for yards per game from the Baltimore Ravens?
Let's go 260.
Nailed it. 260.8.
Really?
They are the
Oh my
best
God.
defense in the NFL by 60 yards a game. That is
That's insane.
wild. Yes, it is. And so I'm right there with you. Go ahead and snag that under. Sorry, I was.
You want me to keep
listening.
going here?
Go one more. Sorry, I was looking at that game's
Yeah.
line. And
No.
It's
There's
Browns
another one.
-2. I don't really feel that great about Browns -2 because I just don't want to bet
No,
on PJ Walker. So.
I don't think you want to play. I think the Browns are a little inflated right now, coming off that win against the Niners, and the Colts are probably the opposite again, coming off that embarrassing game
Absolutely.
against the Jags. So my next there are three that just really pop out to me. The first two I mentioned, and then this one, Pittsburgh at LA. The Rams only favored by 3 at home. I feel like this is a bit of a sucker's bet just off initial glance. That's the only reason I can find for this to only be a 3-point favorite. I feel like this should be closer to 5 or 6. I just don't really. I think the Rams, even though they're missing Kyron Williams, they'll be fine. They can generate. They can basically do. They can make a run game out of Cooper Kupp taking screens and Puka Nacua taking screens. Sean McVay is just really good at scheming up that sort of thing. The Pittsburgh Steelers have had all sorts of trouble covering wide receivers so far this year, and now they face one of the best tandems in the NFL to this point in Kupp and Nacua. I don't have that much in the way of oh, this stat or that stat says that the Rams should cover this game. I just look at these two teams and think Pittsburgh's a really, really inflated 3-2. I could not believe that they were 3-2 when I looked at this game on the schedule. They are not nearly as good as other teams in that situation, and the Rams. They've been pretty good so far this year, but at 3-3, they really need to keep winning to stay afloat here. And I just think they're the much better team. And at home, this will probably be again one of those games that it's half and half Steelers and Rams fans. But even considering that, I'll take the Rams plus the field goal. If it gets to 3.5, I'm probably laying off just because that's a really important number there. But if you're getting it at -3, I'm taking it all day long. A couple stats not in my favor that again I think is potentially the reason this isn't a point or two higher. Mike Tomlin. 11-4 straight up and 9-7 against the spread after a bye week. And Mike Tomlin in his career, an incredible 56-31-4 against the spread as an underdog. That's just ridiculous. Again, I think sharp bettors maybe on the Steelers, but I just don't see it. The Rams are far better in my opinion.
Yeah, I think the reason why it's only 3 is because if they were to hang a 4.5 or a 5, big time bettors would come in heavy on the Steelers at those kind of numbers. So
yeah,
I think they got to keep it.
Might be making a lot of money on that game if they did, though. I don't see the secondary to keep up with these receivers and the offense. Even though the Rams, they came into this year projected to be a bottom tier defense, they've been pretty middle pack, even slightly above average with most metrics. So I don't think Kenny Pickett and crew are going to push past 20 or even get to 20. I think 20 is kind of where I see them landing, and I think the Rams can push into the high 20s pretty easily.
Yeah, absolutely. And this is going right into my newfound philosophy of betting the better quarterback. And I would say McVay and Tomlin are pretty much a push. I think McVay maybe has a little bit more influence on the game itself. So I call that a push and give me Stafford over Kenny Pickett. So I like that one a little bit there. My first one I'm going to throw out here, Green Bay at Denver, under 44.5. Just betting against these two offenses who have looked pretty bad so far this season. Obviously, there's a chance Jordan Love kind of gets a little bit more going coming off the bye week. Maybe they can add a little bit more into the offense or anything. But right now, the Packers have been hitting the unders at a good rate. The Broncos obviously have as well. Well, not obviously because their defense has been rough, but their offense keeps them away from unders a little bit here. So not one that for sure going to lock in, but that's a number that just stuck out to me as a pretty good bet right now.
Yeah, I think that sounds a little higher than I'd have expected it. This seems like a game when you have a game with two bad teams, you generally just see that line put out at 41 or 42, and then it gets bet up or bet down one way or another based on how the sharps are feeling about it. But to see it set at 44.5 is pretty surprising. I didn't know how I felt about the line in this game. I think it's just a complete stay away. It seems like a coin flip to me. So I'm definitely not backing the Broncos right now, and then taking the Packers as a road favorite. They're not a good enough team to be giving points on the road, even against one of the worst teams in the league. So I think if you are playing anything, it is the under here. Next one that I am looking at here, I'm actually looking at a lot of lines right now. Only the Cleveland Indy under is the only one that completely stuck out to me. Again, this will change a lot by the time we record on Friday, but Detroit at Baltimore -3 for the Ravens. I think this is finally the spot I'm going to fade the Lions. They are, again, this is their second consecutive week on the road. They are facing another quality opponent, an even more quality opponent than the Buccaneers last week. Baltimore has had a lot of inefficiencies in the red zone, so that can be, like something that is symptomatic of an offense, but it can also just be bad luck. We're talking about however 5 to 10 plays a game that could swing one way or another that are going to change 2 or 3 field goals into touchdowns, and that is going to matter a lot in a game like this. So yeah, I think Detroit's beat up. I think David Montgomery is a huge loss for them. He's not going to play this week. Jahmyr Gibbs may be back, but he's going to be just coming off that hamstring. I don't expect him to make a huge impact. If they can't get the running game going on the road at Baltimore, asking Jared Goff to carry this offense once again is a really tall task, and I don't think you're going to see, as good as this Lions defense has been so far this year, Lamar Jackson's not putting up 6 points. They're going to have to get to 20 plus to cover +3, and I think they could struggle to do that without a lot of their offensive pieces.
Yeah, absolutely. No David Montgomery, I think, is going to be a pretty big test for Detroit because Jared Goff with a run game is a completely different quarterback than Jared Goff with a semi-par run game. So, if this ends up in your best bets, we might be overlapping this one. I love Baltimore at -3 right now. I know you have a note in here. Stay away at -3 or 3.5 or higher. I think it's going to be closer to 4 by the time we're making our official best bets of the
it'll
week.
Be bet
so
up, most likely.
absolutely. So if you're listening to this on Wednesday,
it's a very sharp guy play.
Take the Ravens.
I would lock it in.
Yes,
yeah, I've already put a little bit of cheddar on this one.
For sure.
Anything else
Nick,
you like?
Go ahead and go to your next one here. I have one more. I know you have a couple more, so we'll go ahead and rattle through a couple.
These ones I am not as enthusiastic about at the moment. I need to do a little bit more research into them, but these are the other couple that have entered into consideration for me. Tampa Bay -2.5 at home against the Falcons. Ritter has huge home road splits, really, really struggles on the road so far in his career. Looks like a really good spot to fade the young quarterback under a field goal on the road in a divisional game. I just really hate giving points in divisional matchups, especially when your quarterback is Baker Mayfield. But right now, I think I'd be playing Tampa -2.5. I would expect this to tick up to 3 or maybe 3.5 by the time the game kicks off. So if you agree, I would lock it in now while you have the good number. Miami at Philly. This is a bit of a stay away for me on paper. I just, they're two really, really good teams. It's only -2 for Philly. I think if I'm leaning one way, I'll take the Eagles at home. Only having to give 2 points at home for this Eagles team that's lost 2 games in the past since the start of last year, and one of those games without. So Jalen Hurts has only lost 2 games as a starter since the start of last year. So I think that is a pretty good stat to hang your hat on and say the Eagles have a good chance of taking this one home at home, but. Another stat I heard today that's similar to the Browns stat, how dominant their defense has been. Miami's yards per play, the difference between their yards per play, they are obviously number 1 in the NFL, and Buffalo's, who is number 2, is larger than Buffalo's at 2 and the 32nd ranked team in yards per play. They are literally lapping the field. So I don't love betting against a team that can say that, especially because the Eagles' weakness is in their secondary. But we saw what the Bills were able to do to the Dolphins when they got pressure on Tua. This Eagles front 7 can do that. And, on the road, after the Eagles just lost a game, again, another situation where we have a team that didn't cover versus a team that did. I would probably just ride the Eagles, but I think I'm staying away. And then my last one, San Francisco -6.5 at Minnesota. This is just going to depend on the health of the 49ers. Trent Williams, CMC, and Debo all questionable. If Trent Williams and one of the other 2 play, this is an absolute lock at -6.5. They are the far, far better team on both sides of the ball than the Vikings. We just saw the Vikings struggle on the road against a Bears defense that has let everyone eat on them. So I might even just take it at 6.5 right now and just hope one of those 3 plays, and you're still getting a good number even if they don't play. But I would like if Trent Williams doesn't play, I get a little concerned about this offense as a whole, especially without 2 of the playmakers. But 6.5 is a little too low for my taste.
Yeah, all over it. Take 6.5 while you can right now. Even if all 3 don't play, you may get a little bit of a better number on Monday, but worst case scenario, you could buy out of your position if you like Minnesota at that point. But this San Francisco team is just on a completely different level. Obviously, Trent Williams hurts, but I'm okay taking San Francisco regardless. Minnesota not being able to dominate the Bears is just an embarrassment to what their friend. I know it's no Justin Jefferson; it completely changes the offense, but the Bears have just let anyone just walk all over them this entire season. So Minnesota not being able to do anything there really just scares me away. But it does also set up. I mean, there's always those few games just every single week that just go the opposite way that kind of help Vegas stay even. And this could be one of them because it's a big name against a team that a lot of people are fading. So because of that reason, I'd probably stay away. But -6.5 seems pretty sweet right now.
Yeah, I think with if everybody was healthy and Moody had just hit that field goal or if one of these three was healthy and Moody had hit the field goal, which does not change anything about what type of team they are, this is probably 9 or 10. I just think you're getting a good price here. It's going to go up if these guys end up playing, and I don't think if all three of them are ruled out, it's not going to fall below -6. I mean, I think this is about the best number you're going to get. Go ahead and guess. I don't know if you've looked. Do you know what the over/under on this game is?
I did look, but I don't remember exactly what it was. Was it? It wasn't 36.5, right?
No, it's 44.
Oh shoot! Sorry, I played all the over/under, so I couldn't remember.
No, I played the under too. That kind of helped made my point. I didn't think you were going to go that low, but you definitely helped make my point there. 44 seems way too high, especially it's a primetime under. We've been riding those, and I don't see Minnesota getting much past 13, maybe 17 points if they have maybe some good fortune. And like with all the beat up options, that would mean that Purdy and this offense have to push past 27. This Minnesota Vikings defense actually been a little underrated on the year. They've played some really tough offenses, and they might actually just be a slightly above average unit. So I could see this game being 2017, like we've seen with basically all of these primetime games hitting the under. So I would bet that down too.
I would absolutely. I have a couple unders here, just some more unders here for you guys.
Hey, it's been real good money so far this year.
Raiders and Bears under 37.5. Obviously, I'd wait maybe a little bit on this one just to 100% confirm Justin Fields isn't going to play, but this could be Brian Hoyer against the Bears' backup quarterback. I don't want to be disrespectful, but I can't remember what his name is.
Tyson Bagent.
Bagent, thank you. So I don't mind that under, just based on what I saw last Sunday. And then we talked about this one beforehand. Chargers-Chiefs under 48.5 right now on DraftKings. Don't mind that either. I think you get a really good defense in the Chiefs and then kind of a struggling offense in the Chiefs as well. They're definitely not going to blow out the Chargers. For not having too many high numbers, there's some unders that look pretty good. What do you feel about Detroit-Baltimore over under 42?
I'd be taking the under there as well. Again, these are two teams that play good defense. I think there could be weather shenanigans in Baltimore this weekend as well. That would help. That would push this thing down if that's the case. But yeah, it doesn't seem like a game that's going to go 27-24 for sure. So I think 42 is a safe number to bet under. I don't think it's, even if the weather comes out and it's a perfectly sunny day, 70 degrees, it's not going to be bet too much farther up than 42.
Yep. Nope, I agree with you, but okay.
Yeah, a lot of stinky games this week, man. I don't know if I mentioned it on the pod, but we were talking about it before that we started. There is only 2 games at 45 or over on the total this week, so I know I said this before last week, and it ended up ringing true. Fantasy football, there's going to be a lot of low scores in your leagues again this week, maybe even more so than last week. So don't feel bad if you're starting some. You're really rolling out some scrubs because you got some buys and some injuries. Your opponent probably will be as well. It's a tough week out there.
Yeah, and if you are one of those teams, just hope you're going against me because I am a freaking injury machine right now. You hope you don't have any players I have on my 4 rosters because they are just getting hurt left and right. So it is. We need to hop off here because it's almost 11 and I need to go hit all my waiver claims for the week. So need to go try and rebuild some rosters out there.
It's gonna be a long night for Mr. Kody to rebuild some of these fantasy teams. But guys, hopefully this helped you get some better numbers than we will be dealing with later in the week, but we will come back and give you our locks on Friday. It'll probably release Saturday. We'll record Friday, but then we'll also have a Thursday night preview tomorrow, probably just a real short 10 or 15-minute episode. We'll give it some props we like, and I will probably have one of my best bets on that show as well.
Fair enough. Sounds good. Maybe I'll look through it. Maybe Saints under will be in consideration as well. So
it's hard to argue with the math. I mean, 12-0 is it's pretty good.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, I'm going to go hit some waiver claims, and one good thing about going 0-5 is we can only go up from here. So make sure you tune into the Week 7 preview show.
Week.
There's got to be at least one winner in there for me, so just choose the right one. But Nick, I'll talk to you later. Peace out, everybody.
Peace.